We put out a statement yesterday about it. Travis County has been trying to control private religious schools, and now here Dallas County as well. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. But we want to make sure you're aware of that breaking news within about an hour or so. That came out of the Attorney General's office. Get the word out, because I know a lot of private schools, religious schools, have been nervous about that. We talked to many of them earlier this week, and this is great news to end a week. But for some of us, the week is not ending just yet, because there's important work that we're doing as a part of the Republican Party of Texas Convention, the Texas GOP Convention. And, there's been a lot of moving parts. Okay, that's about all I'll say in regards to that. But, we're not a stranger to that. A lot of our work, you got to be ready, you got to be nimble and move quickly and be able to adjust. But one of the things that I was excited about is we were going to have a booth at the Republican Party of Texas Convention if the mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner, would not have unconstitutionally restricted our right to do that. And that's playing out in court. But we have this beautiful sign that Jonathan Covey and Mary Elizabeth are standing next to. We're going to have them move to the side just a little bit. It is a great looking sign. We were going to debut it at the convention. We got our 4 squares. We got the baby, the life issue. We got church and religious liberty, the work we do on policy with the Capitol, of course, protecting the traditional family, incorporating the 2 different entities we're a part of, working to assure religious liberty flourishes, families prosper, and every human life is valued. And look, we're not a Republican organization, but the work that happens in the Republican Party and in those particular decisions that are made can impact the issues we work on. So we see it quite important to be present at this event and to have some influence on what happens. And so while the mayor in Houston, Sylvester Turner, sort of got his way to not allow this in-person convention after the Republican Party leaders voted to continue to have it in person, some work did happen in Houston. Actually, I was there on Wednesday, but I didn't do near amount of work that the 2 members of our policy team, Director of Policy Jonathan Covey did, and also Mary Elizabeth Castle. But they're now back in our office in Austin. That was Monday through Wednesday. But the temporary committees have wrapped up their work. We talked a little bit about this on Tuesday. When was it? Wednesday. We're now at Friday. And not a whole lot has changed, but I think I was there around 5 or 6. Some of those meetings went till midnight, but the temporary committees, its platform, legislative priorities, and rules have wrapped up their work. But you guys were there testifying. There was a lot of activity.
Yeah, they wrapped up on Wednesday, all the temporary committees, and of course we thought that on Thursday things were going to get rolling, and then we had some other things happen. But we were there up until probably midnight, close to midnight, almost every night from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, just trying to make sure that our different priorities, religious freedom, things in the platform committee, were able to make up to kind of help lead up some of our platform activities, and feel free to just add in on that.
Well, and if I could say too, Mary Elizabeth, the reason we're there, one of the big reasons we're there, is because we've got background in law and policy experts, if you will, on these areas. There are a lot of issues that folks, and look, they're good people that work on these committees, don't get me wrong, but some of them may not have quite some of the background and the specific information that our team does in specific areas. And that's a big reason why we're there, to provide the laws. But the platform is very similar to what might appear in state law.
Yeah, that's right. This is my first convention, and so I've never been to one, but it is very similar to the legislative process. I mean, just like you have regular people coming to testify for bills, you have, regular citizens coming to testify on the platform. But, our expertise is needed so they can understand kind of the legal ramifications of the things that they're trying to pass in the platform, and why we actually need these protections or these principles in the platform.
Well, and look, it is the goal of a lot of people that the wording in the Republican Party of Texas platform will then turn into state law. And so it's just another reminder of what to get it right, but also for the Republican Party of Texas, this outlines what their principles are. And so speaking of the Texas GOP, there is a new schedule out, and you got to stay connected. And if you want updates on the work we're doing, sit and get it text alerts, because that's where a lot of things are moving with technology. And look, we've seen with this process that a lot of things have been changing with short notice because of things that have been happening with the mayor of Houston and other things to navigate with the coronavirus and so on. Text TX values to 797979. So the number you want to text to is 797979, and then text the word TX values, and then you'll be on our text alert list. And look, we were in Williamson County yesterday. What was yesterday? Thursday. Started the day in Houston,
Right.
then made our way to Williamson County. We're also just personally individual delegates, but we're doing a lot of policy work, law and policy work as it relates to these issues. And so as I understand it, we look at the calendar starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Texas GOP Convention starts with some general things that are going to happen, some recognitions and so on. And then 9 a.m., a little bit more of the work, some election for National Nominations Committee, delegates, and so on to the National Convention. They're going to apparently take some type of lunch, congressional lunch. It's a nice name to it. And, it's interesting because if you've been to some of these events in person, man, some of those lunches are really cool, right? A lot of elected officials. But what we're seeing now is it's just about the work. I don't know if there'll be a lot of elected officials at some of these meetings because a lot of them are happening either in someone's home or in certain areas like Williamson County, Travis, maybe in your county. Somebody has a space that's designated that people can go to. But then at 1 o'clock, you start electing the permanent committee members who make the final decisions about platform, also about rules, and then there's going to be nominations for people that go to the National Committee, and of course the big election on the chairman's race. And so you've got the Republican Party of Texas chair currently, James Dickey, and then Alan West is running to challenge him. So it's going to be a real interesting day if all that gets done. And then Sunday there's a schedule as well. Sunday might be more the day where you see the nominations and some of the vote on some of these issues, but some of that could change. Look, it was interesting too because yesterday, as we were being told, and I think this is to be believed, that the people that were doing the technology have done this before in other states, and something went wrong. And we took a moment to pray at one point because this work is very important. When you think about a national election, a presidential election, and there are people that do have liberal values, they love to see this kind of crater and have a lot of problems and make it difficult and take the focus on really the policy issues and what people are deciding. But we do see that a lot of, you got Legislative Priorities Committee, which specifically talks about this is what's going to be recommended to the state legislature. And last time I checked, it's the current status now, in the House and in the Senate, Republicans have the majority. So if the Republican Party of Texas says these are the legislative priorities, that's something that, has a certain amount of value for elected officials.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to your point about a lot of this happening on Saturday, too, we expect that a lot of this is going to happen very quickly. We want to be able to communicate with our supporters very quickly, too, which is why it's important that they go to text TX values to 797979. And we can send out text alerts and update you when things are happening very quickly on the floor, keep in contact with you.
Yeah, look, because there'll be some, likely some interaction on the issues we care about, people that may disagree, whatever, they're looking at the right wording. So platform committee's got to finish their work. The Legislative Priorities Committee's got to finish their kind of permanent or final work, and then the Rules Committee. And so, so we'll be following along those things. You can be able to do this. Some of this stuff is going to be on YouTube, maybe on Facebook Live, be looking for those updates. If you're a delegate, that's part of the big point, right? If you're a delegate and you get those text alerts, 797979, it's like some of those commercials you see, right? 797979, and then text the word TX values. We can provide you those updates. We might need some insight from you, but the thing that's different about this is, people want some insight on the work we do and on the values and principles. Delegates want to make sure those principles are a part of the Republican Party of Texas. Usually we have a big table, a big booth. We have this great big sign, this new sign that we have. People could come to our booth and interact with us, or they could come by and get a handout or something. It's different. People are spread out all across the state, and so we're trying to use as much technology and trying to make it as really as accessible as possible. So maybe you need to send an email to our team or engage on social media. I know the Texas GOP has been covering a lot of this stuff, Facebook Live. I don't know how they're going to do it moving forward, if it's going to be the same, and you have to expect it might get a little bit more restricted now that we get into voting with delegates. But I do think there's a lot of effort to make it as publicly or at least available online as possible to people that are at home. And so check our Facebook page, Twitter, look at some emails that we're putting out so people can have good insight on that. And I want to touch a little bit more about the convention, but I want to come back around to what I said at the beginning. This breaking news, and this really relates to some of this work that we're doing this week, this breaking news about Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton putting out a legal letter saying that private religious schools do not have to follow these orders at the local level. This is part of the discussion we've had this week for both of you, Mary Elizabeth and Covey, and members of our team. really just this out of control effort and trend of local government thinking they can tell us what to do. Now going into the private school realm, that's been a lot of our discussion. Is we think a lot of these local government efforts on a variety of issues, they've gone too far.
Yeah, it seems like they try to overstep a lot. And I know Mary Elizabeth had a lot to do with our Mansfield ISD issue that we worked on several weeks ago that was kind of related to this very issue.
Yeah, look, I mean, and I imagine there's been some discussion about that in some of these committee hearings at the convention too, whether it's religious liberty, whether it's wearing a mask. I mean, you just a lot of tension and a lot of activity about what is the proper role of government. And, you know, we typically are in support of or in kind of in line with a lot of what our state government leaders think, but sometimes not. But the local government, they've gone way to the other side, it seems, on a lot of these issues.
Yeah, that's correct, and it's unfortunate that we're seeing that they would go this far to trample on the religious freedom of religious schools.
Yeah.
However, if you've seen what's happened at the Supreme Court, there is a glimmer of hope that there's a consensus that religious schools do have that protection. They are allowed to hold to their religious beliefs, whether it's hiring teachers or even firing teachers, and even the kids are protected to be able to use scholarships to go to religious schools. So it is disheartening that we're seeing that these local ordinances are trying to tamper on religious freedom, whether it's in the public school or even private schools, but we're glad that there is hope and that there is protection.
Well, and look, a lot of elected officials, they're watching what happens at the Republican Party of Texas convention, and frankly, that's just the party that's really more indicative and protective of conservative values. It's not a choice that we're making. It's kind of been made by the parties on their own, deciding what they think is important. And so, but elected officials are going to be looking, well, what do the delegates, what do the grassroots, what do local people think should be reflected in what these principles are? And if a lot of them are saying, look, we're tired of what the local government is doing, we need to make sure that religious liberty is protected, human life is protected, that we limit, even in emergency settings, the role that local governments or governments at any level can have to tell us what to do in our long-standing protections in the Constitution, in that original document. And so, and many of us have kind of, you know, look, we've been trying to be understanding with some of this, but it just continues to drag out, and it continues to feel like we're giving up more and more ground when it comes to our constitutional principles. But that's why it's important for your voice to be heard as well. We've got a team of people that are going to work on this, and we do have supporters in all 254 counties. We need you to speak up, particularly if you're a delegate to the Republican Party of Texas and you're like, you know what, you thought you were going to go in person, you're not sure if you're going to engage. This is not the time to say, you know what, I'm just going to do something else this weekend. There might be less people there, so even more reason for you to make sure that someone else is not taking advantage of that, because their numbers would typically not be that strong, and now they are because there are less people participating. So go to sign up for our text alerts, 797979, text TX values, and we'll be trying to put out updates on a lot of these issues. But we're seeing this trend continue, and I think, you know, there's probably been a lot of fatigue on people's parts. It's like every day there seems to be a local order from some government coming out. I was kind of, you know, sort of joking about this with David. I mean, you know, some of these government leaders, I guess they're not taking any vacation time off or wherever they are. They continue to look for opportunities. And look, we're, you know, a month and a half away from school starting, maybe less in some settings, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. My experience is private schools are already either working on or they already have a plan in place to protect things when it comes to these safety issues. And so they don't need the help from the government on this, and they don't need to be assumed that they don't know what they're doing, and the only option is for them to close down. But I'm also seeing this when it comes to churches. I'm seeing a few pastors already state, you know what, we're never closing again. They were kind of understanding, but they realized, you know, maybe they did that and that there's really no end to it. But that's why it's important for you to engage in some of these things that are happening this week, but also moving forward. Look, we have big elections this week. Freevotersguide.com is a website that we help run. A lot of activity and engagement from people, and a reminder of elections. There's a couple elections. I think there's one congressional race that may still be up in the air. Less than 6 votes. And so a good time, too, if you know, you're just re-engaging on the election issue, be thinking about November, thinking about some of these debates. That's a great reason why you got to get tickets to our Faith, Family, and Freedom Forum. It's a policy forum on September 18th and 19th. I think early bird pricing is still in effect. Going to have some great speakers. Ken Paxton, speaking of, the general, will be one of our speakers. Ryan Anderson from Heritage Foundation. We announced some of this last week. There was a lot going on. You may have missed it. Robert Sloan, Dr. Sloan, the president of Houston Baptist University, is going to be one of our speakers, and State Representative Matt Schaefer, also Mays Middleton, a lot of great individuals. That's going to be coming up pretty soon, right? We got to get through some of this week, right? We got to figure out what we're doing
convention.
with the policy for him. And we got SBOE work coming up in September, but a couple of days left to do some of the work we're doing. But I just want to say thank you to the work that both of y'all are doing. And if you need to contact them directly, please feel free to do that or send an email to info@txvalues.org. We'll make sure the right member of our team gets the information necessary to do the work we're either doing this week or moving forward. And look, we're in a new month, and I probably haven't said in a couple of weeks, but July is not any different than any month. If you see value in our work, please consider making a tax-deductible donation at txvalues.org. And that'll help us continue to protect faith, family, and freedom in Texas. And we'll have more updates for you later this week.